Let's go ahead and talk about what 2024 has in store for us. 2024 is looking a little bit weird. Uh, is definitely the most chaotic year that I've had inside of esports. It's very weird. To kind of break it down to you, if you're not caught up onto it and you've been living under a rock, casting has not been the easiest of gigs. Always, it's always been pretty difficult to actually get in. The bar for entry is pretty high. However, I'm very confident and proud of myself. I'm thinking that I'm one of the best when it comes down to North American League of Legends. Uh, and I do think very highly of myself, despite having an issue of like self-confidence issue across the years. I definitely felt like recently, I especially had kind of came into my own and really embraced a lot of what made my casting good, inserting a lot of my personality, trying to take over those keywords that you love to repeat on a cast that you don't realize until you've listened to yourself speak. Making those corrections, trying to figure out what your cadence is, trying to make sure that if you're going to speak really fast, do people actually understand you? But it's been a year that I have to be very realistic about. So what does that mean? Well, let's go ahead and just take a quick moment to look into the past and see what I have done in the past. This channel right here, some of the people that might be getting this video might be people who were here back when I used to PokeTube. I used to be a PokeTuber at the very origination of this channel. Originally, it was actually created before even I started doing Pokemon content. It was my way of forcing myself into playing PC games. I had just gotten a gaming desktop. It wasn't really that great, but it ran League at 30 frames per second, which was better than the laptop that ran at 9 at max. So I was pretty excited. So I made a YouTube channel. I converted it over. I was trying to drop a lot of my old IGN behind, and I focused on making a channel that is primarily around just me messing around with PC games. And you even get to see a little semblance of that, where I was playing games in the past like Rogue Legacy and playing games like Dark Souls and stuff like that. Even though it's funny to think about that because it's like, I get good at computer games, and here I am plugging a controller in. I kind of missed the point there. But I did eventually go into PokeTubing. I worked with a group of really cool content creators called Goldenrod Tower, and we ended up, I think we did videos for about 3 to 6 months. Some people like Poise, Bulky Cotton Candy, and whatnot. Nate Dogg Plays, all these different people that were there. We had, what's his name? Classy Phantom, who I believe has gone into editing. Everybody kind of went their own separate ways and kind of did their thing. I was known as the Maniac Gigabrain PokeTuber, where I was doing things that didn't make sense, but people were like, oh, wait, he actually prepped really well. And that was kind of my shtick, was I was the chaotic type. And all that other stuff. And my passion really went to Pokemon because I always loved it. I'm wearing a Pokemon beanie actually right now, so you can tell I enjoy myself some Pokemon. The problem, not the problem per se, but I lost a lot of the enthusiasm that I had. I got into Pokemon Draft Leagues and was really good at that. I enjoy doing Pokemon Nuzlocks and was really good at that. I would say I'm a pretty good Pokemon player. Pretty good at the game intended, whose target audience is children, right? But here we are. And I ended up, there was something along the way where I just wanted to play more League of Legends. I grew very much so into it. My friends were getting into it. I had a friend who was teaching me, who I actually ended up placing higher than them in ranked for my very first ranked season, and they flipped their lid, and I was like, that's a moment to be proud of. And all this other stuff. Coming along, I actually got my very first casting gig, which was with a group called GG Tournaments. They did free tournaments, and, well, not free, but, well, yeah, some of them were free, some of them were pay the entry, but they were Riot Prize tournaments. and you had a whole bunch of different challenger players from that time, like Ryan Choi, Unholy Wish, players who you don't really talk about no more in this time period, but these were very well-known names back in the day, back when league content was still thriving, full of different content creators. I would say it's probably was around the prime of league commentary, which was people turning on their camera and going, "Hi there, everyone. Sykkuno here." You know, it was the peak of League of Legends content. You know, sit down and watch a 30 to 40 minute video of Sykkuno wrecking somebody, or even back then, Red Mercy was somebody that a lot of people like to watch, or ankle spanking was another one. And eventually I ended up finding myself getting into my very first GGT commentary gig. I was originally, I believe, brought in to kind of do a little bit of moderation, but eventually I casted for the very first time. I primarily ended up solo casting, and I didn't really have an idea of what it meant to be a caster. So a lot of times when you ask me, when did you start casting, I don't feel like I usually answer GGT. I don't really say GG tournaments. And GG tournaments did teach me a lot. To be a caster, not really so much, but it taught me how to be a voice inside this space, really. I was the person who was sent out to the interviews. We had a thing with a radio show that I would go out and I would sit there for an hour and they would just interview me. And there was like a whole like month and a half deal where I would just talk about the different ordeals, different things we were doing. We had like a partnership with TrickGG at one point in time, I believe, where TrickGG had like the animated Udyr where it was like all veiny and all that other stuff. But there's a lot of very cool stuff that was going on there. And I very much so enjoyed League of Legends. So I got into it a bit more. I ended up going into it and focusing on coaching at one point in time, doing analyst stuff. I just wanted to be involved in some shape or form after GG tournaments. And that is where I came across an ad, and the place that I normally say is my start. 2017 Compete League. So 2016 GG tournaments, I got to cast here and there. A lot of solo casting. Didn't really have an idea of what makes a good solo cast. But in 2017, that's when I got to get a good feel for it. I got brought in as a substitute. I was originally put into a caster academy, which was a weird thing. And I got brought in as an emergency sub to color cast with Mad Magical, who was then known as Magical Voice, and is one of my best friends I've ever made inside of esports. We were a duo for a little bit of time, and during my first season there, as I was working as a color caster, they actually brought me over. They flew me out to Canada. We went out to Calgary, Canada, and we casted a live Compete League finals, which was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had the pleasure of being able to do. I met some of the coolest people that I could ever meet inside of that event at the very beginning of the time that I say was the birth of me as a caster. Because really it was me switching to play-by-play off of their recommendation, and then everybody just being like, wow, no, you're a lot better at play-by-play than you are as a color. And I ended up sticking with it. Now I've been casting for 6 years, going on 7. It'll be 7. Well, actually, no, it technically would be 7 if you count the GG tournaments, which would be fair to do. But I've been around the block, is what I'm saying. I've gone into a roundabout way of saying that, but I have been around the block. I've casted Tyler 1 Championship Series. I have experienced many numerous esports scandals that have happened in and out. I've had orgs that have refused to pay after you've done a gig with them. I've seen people who are supposed to be friends turn on each other. I've casted Team Liquid as their official Academy broadcast. I got to see our Team Liquid broadcast actually rise up in numbers above the official Academy broadcast at the time, which was a big deal for myself. Just as an aspiring caster that one day wanted to be on the LCS channel and still wants to be there. I've gotten featured on the LCS channel doing Collegiate League. Though I've never been able to fly out there, guys. I'm just saying, you can call me. I've gotten to be the official production and caster for NCSU. I have been there for Unified since back when it was Upsurge, when it was just born, and have casted every single season since. All the way up until they stopped doing the UPL, and then I still cast with them for the MEC to this day. So why am I making this video? I kind of asked myself that a bit. 2024 is a weird year for esports, just in general, but for casters especially. Lots of talented individuals out there have lost their positions and whatnot, and I feel like it's only right for me to really reflect and take the time after kind of recognizing what has happened. For example, one of the people that I respect the most and somebody who was a driving force for me back in I believe it was 2019, where I actually thought about pretty hardly. I was thinking about quitting casting, even though I loved it. I had a lot of pressure from family that was around me at the time, a lot of different standings that just really made me uncomfortable. Thankfully, I had somebody in my corner that I was dating at the time that was very helpful to me. But another bit of motivation that I had was actually the person who had lost their spot, which was a caster that dons the name Mad Magical. As I said, one of my closest friends in the esports, I would say, that I have gotten the pleasure of meeting. And he unfortunately got let go out of NACL, which was no fault of his talent. He's one of the most talented casters I know, and one of the most driven. But it was definitely something that I had to sit back and kind of think about, because back in 2019, as I mentioned before, Magical was a big reason why I didn't quit. And it wasn't because Magical said any kind words. It was just because I kind of treated Magical as a friendly rival. We were best friends in our own sense, but when I looked at Magical, I said, I gotta get up to Magical's level. Maybe it's because I casted with him as a duo the very first time. Who knows? But there's always been that intense friendship, but there's also been a sense of me being like, all right, I gotta catch up. Getting to Team Liquid Academy made me feel like I was catching up when I saw him over at Cloud9 Academy. 2023 was a weird year. I'm going all over the place because it's a weird video to make for me, because it sounds like I'm going to retire. But we will get to that. 2023 though was also a big standing point. I had the MEC season that was phenomenal. I loved MEC. I loved working with everybody inside of it. Working with J2, the dude's awesome. I love Jay. Jay was the best part of Unified, 110% for me. As a caster, just working alongside with him was always fun. He's very passionate about everything he gets his hands onto. You should check out Jay. Jay's great. I'll put his stuff somewhere. Who knows? It'll probably be down low in the description or something. Or maybe I'll just put an image up here. But I did start to recognize some of the changes in esports. So I unfortunately wasn't a part of the original crew for the NACO qualifiers for spring. I got back in summer and had some great feedback. Some of the people I respected the most gave me some great feedback. Summer being one of them. She's phenomenal as a color caster, and she had given me some feedback where she actually told me, she took the time to tell me, like, dude, your call here was really, really good, and it actually gave me the warm tinglies. You know, it's always great to have somebody recognize you, but it's especially great to have somebody you respect inside the space also be like, dude, killed it, did good. And I kind of went into 2024 thinking it was my year, and 2024 is not really much of anybody's year when it comes down to working in production in 2024. You can make the best out of it, but it is a hard time. People's rates have gotten cut. A lot of the casters and friends that I've gotten to make their rates, while maybe not going down, they're getting less work. Some of the people out there, like Mad Magical, who is a talented individual and one of the best casters inside of League of Legends that you could possibly get, found himself without casting, and because you're kind of expected to go NACL or possibly go into the LCS. My point is, 2024, I know things have to change. And where that change is going to come about is through how I spend some of the free time. Because let's face it, after MEC, I'm going to have a lot more free time that's going to come about. And I need to keep myself busy. Also, there's not going to be as many events. I'm used to being able to work 4 events in a week, even though that's probably not the healthiest of way to go about things. I'm going to focus on doing a bit more content. It's still going to have esports, but there might be moments where I decide, hey, this idea sounds fun. I had an idea for something Baldur's Gate 3 related because I have almost 500 hours in it as we are recording this video. So I was like, maybe I'll put out something about Baldur's Gate and see what happens. I'm going to try and have fun with content this year. I'm going to try and bet on myself in regards to being able to do things good. And I'm not giving up on being a caster, despite how this may sound like a retirement video. It's not. I love casting with a fiery passion. If I didn't, I know probably about it, I wouldn't be here. I love esports, despite the scenery sometimes being so cutthroat you can't tell who was your friend and who was your enemy. Having people that can turn around and hit you with lines like, hey man, I've never seen you approve before, and then immediately follow it up a week later, hey, I've actually never watched one of your casts. You get that kind of stuff in esports, and esports can eat you alive. You probably have seen quite a few people that have. But I love the scene. I love talking to the players. I love the interviews. I love the energy. I love getting to talk about League of Legends. So I'm going to keep making content. I'm going to focus more on some content-sided things. So you'll see the channel becoming more active. I'm trying to set up a goal to try and make sure I do at least 1 video a month. I know that sounds weird. There's like 30 days in a month, you're saying to yourself right now. But I'm new to this, and I don't want to burn myself out by forcing myself into like, oh, I'm going to do a new video every week. Hopefully, that will be the goal. And hopefully, I blew this a video a month goal out the water. But I want to set something that's good for me, good for my mental while I'm trying to navigate this. One of my biggest problems I've always had is having too many ideas and just not focusing down and sitting down with them. So, yeah, I just wanted to make this video to kind of talk about what my goals are going to be. There will probably be more streams. There will be more content. There will be more me, just in different ways. And I'll still, of course, be Travis. I'll still be Travysty. I'm not done with esports, and I'm not going anywhere. But with the shifting scene, I felt like it was right for me, after taking the time to think about it, to kind of put out a video to hold myself accountable. The way that this channel was supposed to hold me accountable at the very beginning, I'm now using a video to kind of be a capsule for me to look back on. So that's pretty much it. Highly recommend checking out like Magical. I already said J2. Another person I would highly recommend, and I want to give a big thanks to, is Rosu, who was a tremendous help to me, has edited both the casting reels that I've ever put out, which is insane. They're really high quality work, and they're super good, and I always recommend my boy. But yeah, no, I'll still be casting. I'll be here for the entirety of the MEC. After that, we'll see what happens. CeeLo was weird last year. The first time I ever produced play-by-play and colored all on the same cast. Who knows what next year has to bring. Well, not next year. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. What this year has to bring. Maybe there will be a resurgence in esports. Maybe some money will flow in somewhere. Who knows? But I'm here to stay, because I love being here. So I hope you love being here as well. I hope you enjoy getting to see my face here on YouTube, because you'll see it here quite a bit more as we continue to go through it and figure out exactly what we want to do. That being said, I appreciate you if you stayed all throughout this entire video. I think it's close to 20 minutes now. I've been rambling. I'm kind of in my feels making it because it feels sad to say, but I feel like it's right to give an informed explanation on what's next for Travy. And what's next is adapting to a very strenuous time in terms of esports and focusing on what exactly brings me joy. So, yeah. Thank you yet again. I've said it so many times. I'm going to go ahead and hit the stop button, and you have a phenomenal rest of your day. I hope you take care of yourself. Please take care of yourself. Like, drink water right now.
Always like think of like I want it that way.
Tell me
Like-
why.
Ain't nothing but a copyright.
Tell me why.
It's upstairs.
I'm
9
upstairs with
degrees.
Tell me
you.
why.
Ooh, we found the room.
Yeah, it's 8 degrees in here.
I want it that way.
Stop singing.
But we are two worlds apart. Can't reach to your heart when I say
Oh my god.
I want it that way. Don't wanna
All I